It's been a couple of weeks since my last show, and for those of you that followed Strength Training Blueprints with Dennis Santos, it was an interesting journey. Started the Monday after Thanksgiving, and a lot's gone on since then. During that process, we had the opportunity to interview some really interesting people. One of them being Brittany Walker, who is a fitness model. But what I have to say about Brittany, I probably don't have enough time to talk about all the great things. But let me just say this. I am so impressed by who she is that I'll say that she was largely probably 90% of the motivation I had many times to keep going, just because I knew someone out there who matched me in responsibilities with her daughter and with work and everything that she does, but yet still lived the lifestyle and did so without complaining and without letting...
Usually. No, I'm kidding.
I never saw otherwise, but it's just, to me, it was just incredible to see someone deal with life and everything that goes into keeping a house up and raising a child, but yet still preparing for a show, still living the lifestyle, still cooking all the meals. So in this process, I thought, man, I know that I can't appeal to a lot of people out there, people, women especially, who need a little more nurturing, who need things explained. Sometimes I know I can come across as way over the top, and so I thought, what better person to kind of, if you will, pass the baton on to than Brittany Walker. So we have this great opportunity in the next 14 weeks to follow Brittany Walker with the first step in what I think, now she hasn't really said this because she's modest, but in the first step to becoming a pro bikini competitor in the IFBB. So I want to hand it over to Brittany. I will say this before she starts explaining a lot of things and starts talking about how she does things, is that I love the fact that you can arrive at the same destination doing things differently. And what I love about what you're going to see in the next 14 weeks is that you're not going to see Strength Training Blueprints by Dennis Santos, female version. You're going to see Brittany Walker, because she doesn't really need an introduction, but you're going to see Brittany Walker handling food prep, handling the diet, with views that are totally contrasting to mine. I mean, I'm going to say this right now, like if you sit in a room with us talking about our diets, you will laugh, because she's low fat, I'm low carb, and sometimes yes. And see, it starts already. but you will, I think what you'll pick up in this series with Brittany Walker is another viewpoint. And she's helped many people get in shape. I would send my sister to her, anyone that I feel like, a certain kind of person that I know, definitely Brittany Walker, she's the one for you. Most of the female friends I have, I just recommend them to Brittany Walker, because I really know that they'll be taken care of well. But you'll get the opportunity in these next 14 weeks to know not only who she is, what drives her, what motivates her, but also you'll get those little things that, like, we always wonder, how do these people that are great, how do they get there? You'll find out in the next 14 weeks. So, without further ado, Brittany Walker.
Thank you.
So, to start with, Brittany, you did the Arnold.
I did, yes.
And we interviewed right as you were starting your prep, right?
Yeah, actually, I think 6 weeks out, maybe 4 weeks, maybe somewhere around there. Yeah. Yep.
So, how did just talk about your experience there with the Arnold.
The Arnold was my first competition ever. I decided 6 weeks prior to competing that that was the show for me. One of the biggest shows of the year. I was kind of one of those go big or go home. I just really wanted the experience in general. So I decided, like I said, 6 weeks out, and I was game on from there. I made huge improvements in those 6 weeks, more improvements than what I actually thought I was going to. But it was an amazing experience. Something that one doesn't really, you don't really see the big picture, because you can ask people, but some people don't really know what it's like until you go through it. This here will certainly help you understand what you will actually see, like behind the scenes, what you should be taking to show. Because when I showed up, I was like, oh, I'd look at some of the other girls and I'd be like, oh, that was such a good idea, I should have done that, or how others prepare for it. So I learned a great amount. I'm very excited to take what I did experience to the next show and go from there. So
that's awesome. I remember seeing Brittany backstage, and I was like, wow, because obviously I was doing the show myself, and especially hands down, the best suit in the whole show, I think Brittany had it.
I saw a suit and I fell in love and I had to have it.
Yeah, I'm dying to ask her how much it was, but we won't, I think, go there today, right?
No.
Okay. So she looked phenomenal backstage.
And you can win it in a suit that costs a lot of money. You can also win it in a suit that costs very little money. Mm-hmm. It's not about that. It's about what you feel most comfortable in, what is your style, what makes you feel good. I saw the suit and I fell in love, like I said. So it was one of those things that I had to have it. Mm-hmm. So.
One of the things that we're going to do in this, for what I know Brittany's going to do, by the way, I'm also preparing for the same show Brittany is doing. It just so happened to work that way that I'm also going to do the Ohio. So you guys will kind of follow my prep as well. But one of the things that I know that I always do after a show is I think, okay, here's where maybe I can improve. This is maybe I know what I have to improve on the outside, but in here, in between my ears, what do I have to improve on? What could I have done better? There's always something. Every time I think I've got my diet handled, I go through contest prep and I realize I have a weakness in this area. I have to be prepared for my child to get sick and diet through that, as an example. So one of the things that I thought you might want to share, Brittany, is what in your prep for the Arnold do you think, next time I'm going to do this better, I'm going to practice this more, I'm going to concentrate more on this or that? Would there be anything that you could say?
I'm sure there's a lot that I could do better. One thing that I will definitely, absolutely always do is prepare ahead of time, because being prepared will lessen your chance to kind of miss your meals. Obviously, it determines whether or not that week is going to be the best that it possibly could have been. That was huge for me. I kind of showcased a little bit on my fan page about how I prepped, and I put pictures up, and I would cook and I would have them all ready to go. That is something that I will not miss out on this time, because there are things during the week that come in that you don't expect. And that's one less thing you have to worry about. The most important as well, I will tell you that. Aside from training, diet and nutrition is key. And those are the things that you can't miss out on.
Yeah. So. There's, and I don't pretend to be an expert in bikini. I've only helped like maybe 2 or 3 girls really, as far as their diet, get ready for shows with bikini. But I get, just from being at shows, looking at different girls compete in that category, that posing is huge.
No, that I was just about to say too. There's two other things that I'm going to do more of, and that is sleep. I preach it all the time, but I definitely will be sleeping more now. Back then, I was a little bit more, I had a lot of stuff with work and so on, and competing for the first time, that was like my first experience to go, oh, okay. You know, whereas I'm in the gym every day normally, and I always prepare my food ahead of time, even competition or not. You know, there are times though where I cook dinner and things like that, but you know, I'm used to all of that, but the sleep is a huge thing when competing. So that's number one. Posing is number two. And it's all about who you bring out on stage. That sometimes you never know. I mean, you might have somebody that might have a little bit better of an area. You know, their midsection's better, their glutes came in a lot, you know, stronger than yours. But if your presence on stage blows that other person away, I mean, that can be key, you know. And so it's really just feeling comfortable. And I'll tell you what, aside from winnings over somebody else, it's having fun in it. And if you're doing it up there and you know, are having fun and you feel like you own that stage, like you are completely confident up there, it makes the experience that much more. Yeah. So posing is definitely a huge thing. Mm-hmm. Huge.
Yeah, I've, you know, it's interesting you say that because I just competed in a show where a young lady, you know, I was just taken back that she didn't make it into the top 5. I have never done this, but I started yelling out her number so the judges could look at her. Yeah, and the thing that struck really like drew my attention to her is how she walked on stage, the way she posed. I saw her backstage, and you know what was interesting is that she looked so much bigger than life on stage than she did backstage. Backstage, you would almost, I mean, she had a good build, but she didn't look as good as she did on stage. You know, those body parts, like you said, weren't so over the top like they looked like on stage. You know, like she just knew how to present what she had, what she was working with, and so I think that goes along with what you're saying. How
certainly.
Like
yeah.
Presentation is huge in this, and so I'm excited in these 14 weeks to see Brittany bring that out. Like, you know, they say you got to bring out the inner diva when you're on the stage.
Yeah, and posing for me was, it was very interesting because when I first started, I did not feel comfortable in it. And I'm in front of the camera quite often. I felt like I should have been comfortable doing it, but it took me a while, and then I finally started getting it, and then I started feeling better. Well, and so I'll give you a little bit of an example. Here I am at the Arnold, right? It's my turn. I'm up. I've got these next, I don't know, what do they call it? 9, how many seconds do you have?
I don't know. How you mean like seconds to pose? When
yeah, it's like, yeah, when you're actually there in that spot. So I get out there, I'm about to make my first, you know, my first turn. So when you turn around, and I'm like, oh, shoot. In my head, I'm thinking, this is carpet. And the way that I posed was a pivot. So your foot stays on the floor. And I was like thinking in my head as I'm doing it, and it's not as like swift as it is usually for me during posing practice, that in the camera I notice the difference that little thing made. So you do definitely learn from, but those little funny things sometimes, that brief moment where you're like, do not fall, just keep going. So, you know, but this time, you better believe I will be practicing on carpet, on the normal floor that's supposed to be on stage, and everything else.
That's crazy how something like that you never think ahead of. Like you practice posing at the gym on just a regular floor, and then there's carpet at the Arnold.
There was, on stage, and normally every stage that I've seen, at least in my head, what I was thinking I was going to see was going to be like wood, you know, like a normal stage. And I remember striking my first pose kind of thinking about it, but the second that I went to go pivot, I was like, oh, because my heel kind of got a little stuck. And I was like, just keep going. So, you know, but this time it'll be different, just in case.
That's all. See, I think this is a nice little preview to what you'll be getting in the next 14 weeks. So, so I'm trying to cover all the major questions I think people will have. Another question that I think would be interesting for you to talk about is in the next 14 weeks, what do you plan on eating? What's your strategy? Where are you? I know you can't give it all away right now, but where are you starting? Where are you going, and how are you going to get there?
Typically coming in. So just to give you a little bit about what I've been doing, before I guess these 14 weeks. I was eating clean still, but I was intaking a lot more than normal, in my opinion. I think just to kind of give my body just a little bit more to work with, I'm really trying to change my lower half a lot. And so, you know, some of that at first I wasn't really thinking this way, but towards the end I was okay keeping it, because as I increased my foods, I really wasn't seeing that big of a difference. I wasn't gaining a ton of weight. I was still kind of keeping my cut somewhat, and I was seeing some areas that were changing, so that was good for me. Coming into this now, though, that is not happening any longer. I start leaning out fewer calories towards this first few weeks going in, obviously. Lower sugars, definitely for me. My carbs are low to start with. Good fats are moderate. I wouldn't say high, but they're up there to keep my energy up and so on. But the biggest thing I think over the next couple of weeks, what's going to happen is seeing how I end up at the end of the week. I'll assess from there and see, because sometimes you'll add in more fats or red meat here and there to just kind of shock your body and increase your metabolism. And at that time, we'll kind of make adjustments, and I'll go from there.
Okay.
So
now you don't have to reveal this, but I know that one of the things I always preach to people is that we all need coaches. We all need some kind of guidance, because unfortunately, when we're doing this, it's hard to be objective.
Right.
When you're looking in the mirror, you know, it's happened to me where you know, I want to pull the trigger. Okay, that's it. I'm taking all the carbs out because I'm behind. Or sometimes you look for a bodybuilder, we look flat. And we start getting worried, oh, I'm going to be skinny. I'm not going to be lean, I'm going to be skinny. And so what do? You go out and have a few carbs, and then you need more and more. And before you know it, you've eaten a whole pizza and some pretzels and ice cream and popcorn, and you threw it all out. You know, you threw all that hard work out the window.
Oh, right, because you worry about it too much with yourself. You take in so much worry. So whereas when people are coming to me and I help through their lifestyle coaching and so on, it's easy for me because I see their picture on the outside, and when they're documenting what they're doing, how they've been on their diets, what they look like, to really gauge, okay, this is what they've been doing, this is what's working. Looking at them, this is where we need to go. Whereas we're not always so I guess true to ourselves. Like we worry too much, and then you don't really realize, well, yeah, I guess I did take in that and I forgot I ate that. Or, whereas I don't really go off very often. I mean, I don't think during the Arnold, I stuck to every ounce of whatever. Not everybody does, but it's really hard to kind of do that yourself. So the question as far as a coach or asking somebody, I will tell you that I am not ashamed at all whatsoever to ask somebody else's opinion or to hear it either. I am not closed-minded, and I will take that in, and I'll at least give it a try and see if there is something that somebody else's expertise. I'll ask Dennis maybe, or somebody else, and
That's not true. I ask her.
Well, sometimes, yeah. And sometimes, you can either listen or you don't have, but I will definitely ask sometimes other people's opinions, but I read a lot. We'll put it that way. And I keep my mind open to everything. Closer to show, I don't stray from my usual too much, because then there's not as much time to really, you can't gain that back.
Make an adjustment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
That's really, that's something that I want to make sure everyone knows that, no one my dad used to always say, no one is born knowing everything, and it was his way of humbling me. Because, as a teenager, you think you know everything, you got everything figured out, but that is a true lesson, and it especially applies when trying to achieve this really extreme level of conditioning that we strive for. Because, this is crazy. It is extreme, yes. But even for people who are, I think, trying to get in shape, just get off the couch and look, start to feel better, maybe look better, and just fit into their skinny jeans. I think it's important, very, very important, to go to someone and ask your opinion. And that person might charge you. That person might be a coach. They have a lot of expertise in that field, and they should be compensated. I don't rely on this entirely for, this isn't my livelihood to help people, but I do enjoy it, and I do charge as well. And I just wanted Brittany to kind of fill in here in maybe some of what she's doing in that way, in helping other people, and just talk about how you bring that all into everything you do.
Yeah, a lot of times, the one thing that I definitely don't want to put out there is, okay, this kind of life is the only way that you are going to be fit, that you are going to be the weight that you're going to be, or you're going to feel the way that you are, only by going to this extreme level, especially during competition in general. There is a way to maintain through normal daily lives, no matter how busy you are, I promise you. However, there are steps